at the moment, the colour that we're adding looks very, very cool, especially cool, even though I've added a lot of crimson, because of the relationship with the colour of the background that's already there. So as this colour sits hard next to this warm burnt umber, the colour that we're adding for the background looks very, very cold. It's possible I've added too much crimson to try and warm it up. However, I'm okay with the purpley tones. I may need to change my brush selection for some of these pieces here. Try to sort of cut in on your painting at different angles, especially the twig. We want the twig to look very twiggy. There will be areas where your leaves will be smoother than others. I'm also cross-hatching my background. I'm not a fan of a straight lined background. I find it looks so flat and doesn't give any justice to your image, doesn't give any justice to your painting. So I prefer a bit more of a dabbed look or a cross-hatch look that goes in different directions. Also allows you to cut into your image a little easier. Going to need another brush for some of these detailed bits. Don't worry too much if you accidentally hack over a little bit of your painting with your background colour. You can get a paper towel and just wipe it off straight away. Make sure that your image though is dry. Alright, looks like I'm out of paint again. Well, I've got my main colour there, I just need to cool it down. Add a little more blue and a little more crimson as it lightens up. So yeah, coming back to what I was talking about today, about how we're feeling today, just a little, over the whole coronavirus thing, and not to sound, not meaning to sound ignorant, but we're just at a point where we've given it so much thought and so much preparation, and we've really done everything we can now to try and help our family stay safe and our friends. And I just don't think there's anything else we can do anymore. And we're just feeling a little exhausted from, obviously, the huge amount of suffering that's going on at the moment. And so for our own sakes, we're just trying to re-establish our equilibrium. We're just trying to get into the projects that we promised ourselves we were going to start. So I've gone and we did one sort of like a special trip to Bunnings, and we bought everything we might need for the next sort of few months. So we've got paint to paint the fence outside. We've been wanting to do that for a long time. I think we've got what we need to finish the roof. We've got a little bit of paint to do the outside of the office, which is exciting because I was jumping up and down about that one a little bit. It's not a necessity because we're not painting a house just yet, because we're going to be rendering most of it. But there's a section on the studio or the office. It's a bit of an office at the moment, but it's normally a studio. Is that section there that's going to ultimately be hand painted. So I'm just so excited about getting some colour up. It's a little bit like when you first start that canvas. You obviously you know that the detail is not going to come straight away, but you just want to get that colour up. You just need to see what you're dealing with and what you're going to be progressing towards. I thought that bit might be a bit light. So I think painting the outside of that small section, that small room, is a little add-on. I think that one's just going to give me quite a lot of motivation to do all the other jobs I need to do. I also bought enough paint to paint our living room. So before we moved into this house, someone has painted it, but the colour on the walls underneath the white was like a greeny sort of a colour. It's like a really acidy greeny colour. Honestly, it's the worst colour ever. It was just disgusting. And thankfully they had painted it white before they sold the house, which was fantastic. However, they gave it one coat. Maybe two. But the whole house has this greeny, acidy greeny feel underneath the white, and I cannot deal with it at all. So I've got to a stage where I'm like, that's it, it's enough. So we're going to just give it another couple of coats of white. Really hard to choose a white. Can you believe how hard it is to choose a white? We were tossing up between 3 different types of whites. One was vivid white. The other was a very creamy, warm creamy kind of a white, but so pale that you could almost tell, like in the shade, you couldn't tell the difference between the vivid white and the sort of the creamy white. However, in the light, it looked very cream. It looked like really buttery cream, and it was very. I liked that aspect of it. I liked that it still looked fresh and white, but it still had a bit of warmth to it. And then we had a dark white, almost like an antique white. That was beautiful. I think if I didn't have a partner to talk to about it, I would have just gone and bought that and painted the whole house in that colour. It's a very, very lovely colour, but we do have a very small house. We have lots of useful space, but it's not big space. It's quite small space. There's not a lot of wall space. It's a little bit like a very small maze. So I think ultimately just the vivid white is going to serve us best with all the artwork that I put on the walls, and I want to have a bit of a very, very light beachy theme, but that will be easy to adjust with a vivid white. Whereas I think with an antique white, it definitely works if you have stone walls, but if you don't have stone walls and you have a small house and you want a beachy feel, I think you're actually going to go much more towards a farmhouse or a cottagey feel, which I love, but the one that we both agree on is a more beachy feel. So we want it really bright and airy, and tone it down with warm fabrics like linens and stuff like that. Not sure it'll ever happen, but well, that's the plan anyway. I'll keep working toward the master plan. Okay, so when you're meeting up your two different, or your lower value and your higher value, when you meet them up together, make sure you're very gradually lightening or darkening your colour. And make sure that in other areas where it needs to blend and flow, that's what's happening. Alright, and then I want to go darker again down here, but not as dark as on the other side. I don't want such a low value that it just looks completely dark. Now I'll just have a time check. Oh yeah, okay, good. Alright, so we're starting to make some progress now. Now that we get closer to the pear, this is the real storytelling piece. The real storytelling bit of the painting. We want to have a harder surface here because the light is hitting on this side. Did I say lighter surface? That wasn't quite what I meant. I meant a sharper line. You can tell I haven't slept for a little while. Reason I haven't slept, not because of worrying, because so I quite specifically tried to sleep in another room last night just so that I could get a good night's sleep. I just needed no breathing next to me or tossing and turning or snoring, and I just wanted a good night's sleep. And I was joined by this fly who had made its way in somehow, maybe when the rubbish was being put out or something, I don't know. But it came in and buzzed around for 2 hours and terrorized me the entire time and just gave me no ability to sleep. I literally spent 2 hours trying to chase this thing down. I can't really use things like fly spray because I'm quite allergic to it. So that was a bit of a downer. That kept me awake for a while. Okay, so now that we've got this slightly cooler colour next to the pear, boy does that pear pop. Okay, what I've decided I'm going to do with this this cloth, I'm going to keep it in the same colour. I'm not going to alter the colour. I'm just going to alter the values enough that you know that there's some cloth there. But I really just want to make this painting all about the pear. Okay, so I'm going to go into a very light value. I'm going to warm it up slightly and add a little bit of yellow ochre. So I've got a much more pastel-y, lighter colour. That's going to be the edge of that light part of the cloth. And then I'm just wiping my brush of it. I'm going to grab a mid-tone range and I'm going to just really want to just blend that in. Let's just come out of nowhere. I want it to come out of nowhere because I don't want to do a whole scene. I don't want to make a scene. I just want to make a pear. But I like the cloth because it gives I didn't want a pear exactly, well I did want a pear exactly in the middle, but then I started it and decided I didn't want the whole pear to be shifted down, I just wanted the fruit in the middle. But because these are so bright and have a lot to say, I need to put something in the foreground to put the pear in its place and to balance out these dancing leaves at the top. And then I want to get really low in this value, and I'm going to go cooler. I want more blue. I'm going to add that black in there, because remember that's how we started our shadow down here. And that's really going to give us some reference and where we're going to go with our colours, because as you can see, I've started twice now in the light. Both times I've gotten lost and I've had to backtrack to the lower values and begin again. I hope this sort of helps you see my process as well. It's not all a case of, oh, I've made a mistake, I have to stop, I've done it wrong. It's not really like that with art. It's a process. It takes time, and when you see my process, I hope that helps you identify the ways that you can learn while you're painting. It's honestly the best way to learn. It's just by practice, and I think just really becoming aware of how to identify what's wrong with your painting when it's not right, if that makes sense. And that's really what I want to help you gain some skills in doing, is identifying what's wrong, using what's right, and being able to go back and fix some of those mistakes. Hopefully this process will help you develop your own process in your paintings. You don't have to do it all this way. You might find ways that work better for you. But what I've been teaching